What is going on, Sports Wars? We're here. We're live for Against the Spread every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And joined always, we're here with the Sports Picks crew at sportspicks.locals.com. Robert Barnes, how you doing today, sir?
Good.
Awesome. And he's still trying to irritate me, remind me of that win that the Green Bay Packers had last week. It's sad that the Green Bay Packers needed a win to pull to 4-6 just to get ahead of the Bears in the NFC conference or in the NFC standings. But hey, that is what it is. Also, we got Cody here. What's up, Cody?
How's it going? Good to be here.
It's good to have you with that pink. Is that pink or salmon? What are you going to call that?
This is pink. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Just
real
making
men
sure.
wear pink.
Just making sure. And then Cricket is also here. What's up, man?
What's going on, brother? How you doing this evening?
I could complain because I can always find something to complain about, but I won't complain tonight. That's for sure. But before we do get into all of these games, because if it's your first time here, we talk about every single NFL game for the upcoming week. These guys tell you their picks, their predictions, their fantasy, like whatever they're looking at for these games. And then we move on to the big 5 games in college football. But before we do that, we got to talk about all the things that bugged us last week. We got to talk about any bad beats that were out there. Robert, what did we have last week?
So I gave out the Bills at -3.5 back when people had doubts whether Allen would play. I thought he would, and then he did until the line went up. But the people that had it 3.5, it looked really safe for most of the game. And then Vikings make a comeback, but it's still 4 points. And the Vikings have it at like 4th and 18 and somehow convert on, Justin Jefferson making one of those Super Bowl type catches, which is crazy, which followed up a Bills player making a similar crazy catch earlier in the game. And so they get the first down. They drive all the way down. They get first and goal. Looks like the bet is screwed, but they fail on fourth down and goal. So 44 seconds left. All the Bills got to do, Vikings only have one timeout left. All they got to do basically is run one play. Just, it's at the half-yard line, but just, you hike the ball and get it out like half a yard, maybe do it one more time, end the game. And what does Josh Allen do? He fumbles. And when he fumbles, the Vikings get a touchdown out of it. Basically, that was DOA for that spread, no matter what happened in overtime, because the Vikings got a field goal early. Allen put the icing on the cake with a pick that could have tied the game at a minimum, if not win it outright. So that was the rough. I don't think I have lost a bet that I've put out ever before in that way. I've lost some crazy ways, but never a star quarterback fumbling on his own end zone when he only needed one more snap to win the game.
That's one of those where you hear people, hey, you think about taking a safety. You know what I mean? Like, those are legitimate concerns there. And, man, no, that wouldn't have been good for the spread either. But, hey.
No, yeah, I would have been screwed with that. I would have been cussing out the entire screen if they'd have done that.
Exactly. But that was a crazy ending. And Justin Jefferson, he has been, ever since he came into the league, he's been one of the best fantasy wide receivers, one of the best wide receivers out there, especially with the amount of times Kirk Cousins looks to him. But some of the catches he made were incredible, including that one-hander. He had it like a crazy stat. Something like he had an average of, I think, 2.5 yards of separation. It was 2.5 or 1.5 yards of separation per reception, which is nuts, which means he was never really that open. He was constantly covered, and Kirk Cousins just kept fucking throwing the ball, and he somehow kept coming down with them. And those Minnesota Vikings are 8-1, man. It's crazy.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
Right?
Yeah. And now that the scary team, we keep talking about Kirk Cousins maybe not being able to, finish on the road or in other time slots or whatever. They're 8-1. They've come back in the fourth quarter over and over and over again. You've got an offense that has Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, who's barely being used right now, TJ Hawkinson, and of course, Dalvin Cook has stayed healthy. Pretty scary.
Man, Alexander Madison ain't no joke in the backup role at running back.
He's a great backup. He's a great backup. So, but that's all ancient history. You guys don't care about that anymore. You already won or lost your money. So let's move on to this week. The Thursday game between the Tennessee Titans, head up to Lambeau, see if the Packers can actually string 2 wins together after that Cowboys victory.
Yeah, I think the free bet last week was the Packers, wasn't it? Getting 5 points early on in the line. So people took the free bet won again that watched the show. This is interesting. Packers favored by 3. total of 41. They're predicting something like a 22-19 score as the Titans travel to Lambeau. The public is leaning towards the Titans, but not a big lean, and they're hammering the under. So clearly, part of that is the Titans' defense, and part of that is until last week, the Packers had been on an offensive drought. But, they started to get, he found something with Watson deep. I mean, Rodgers is still Rodgers. I haven't seen any drop-off in Rodgers whatsoever. And elite quarterbacks rarely continue to struggle a whole season long in the NFL. They got the running game going finally. They got off the schneid. And if they can develop Watson deep, he kept dropping short passes, but he kept catching the deep ones, then they might really have their offense back. If I had to lean in this game, it would be towards the Packers at home to continue to make a run into the playoffs by starting to roll off some wins. They need to win this game as much as they needed to win last week's game. So I would lean Green Bay.
Yeah, as a Tennessee fan, I'm probably staying away from the game. But I'll tell you what, that Packers defense, the weather's going to dip down into the 20s, and Henry hits hard. And so that cold weather, they're going to be in for some not so nice football this Thursday. So fantasy owners, I'm looking for a big week from Henry here. Green Bay Packers are not great, do not have a great rush defense. The Titans have the number 2 rushing defense in all of NFL, but on the flip side of that, they have the 8th worst passing defense. So if Christian Watson and Aaron Rodgers can continue to hook up like that, and they're finally got on track, you could look for a lot of scores here, which scares me on taking anything on that over under.
Man, I got to stay on these Titans. I like what these Titans have been doing. I love what this defense has been doing. I think 3 points is probably too much for any team in this game. Green Bay has to come back, score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter last week, get it to overtime, win it in overtime. The Titans had a great second half last week too, shutting out the Denver Broncos down 10-7 at the half, shutting out the Denver Broncos the second half, and able to find a win there, 17-10. I just like what the Titans are doing, man. I really do. I think they're really starting to find their own, really starting to run that offense through Derrick Henry like they've been doing for the last about month of the season now. Tannehill's back, starting to, fall back in line. It just looks good. I still have too many questions for this Green Bay Packers D. Like I said, fantasy note, man, you got to look to pick up Christian Watson now, especially those folks that are looking to replace Cooper Kupp and stuff like that. Christian Watson's obviously looking like moving forward in this offense, he's going to be a target that Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking for. But I just like the Titans in this game. I think, as I said, sitting at 3, maybe buy it up to 3.5. That way, if the Packers can find a way to win by a field goal, it still covers for you. But I like the Titans right here taking 3, man. And I wouldn't be surprised, wouldn't be mad at sprinkling some on the money line.
Watson, by the way, was not rostered in any of the 8 leagues that I'm playing in at all. So not a single one was he rostered, and I was able to scoop it in about 5. So yeah, if you guys want to get out there and scoop him while you still can, now's the time to do that.
I think Watson and Dobbs probably were rostered early on because people were expecting them to take big roles with an empty receiving core for Green Bay at the start of the season, and neither of them did anything the first half of the season. And obviously Dobbs had the injury and everything as well. So
Watson's been hurt on and off too the first 6-8 weeks. He's been dealing with some nagging type injury stuff. So maybe he's getting back healthy, man. He looked good on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, and we do just have to point out that given the Tennessee defense credit for shutting out the Denver Broncos. Pretty much anybody can do that at this point,
right?
Because of Russell Wilson. But that defense is looking a lot better, certainly than
they have an incredible
early on
scoring
in the season.
defense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now we head to the Sunday game. The Chicago Bears, the 3-7 Bears, but everyone's excited because at least they're fun while they lose with Justin Fields, headed to Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons favored by 3, total of 49. So they're basically predicting a 26-23 score in favor of the Dirty Birds at home. The public, it loves the Bears. As you mentioned, they've been playing fun football, and so all of a sudden the Bears bettors are back. Almost 3/4 of the tickets are on the Bears on the spread. Almost 90% of the money line is on the Bears to win straight up. And the money's overwhelmingly, almost 3/4 are on the over. They think the Bears' high-scoring tendencies of these recent games is going to continue unabated. Atlanta coming off that bad loss at Carolina. I would say I lean towards Atlanta. I'm not yet sold at the Bear and lean towards the under. I'm not yet sold that this Bears offense is going to continue to put up big numbers. How long can you go without being able to throw the ball in the modern NFL? And that's where my doubts lie and why I lean to the Dirty Birds.
Same. Yeah. Justin Fields' legs are tired. He said so himself. He's 300 something yards in the last 2 games, like over 500 in a short span. The guy's freaking out as far as a running quarterback is concerned. That the good news for them, if he's going to get a passing game going, is that Atlanta secondary is not very good. And they haven't been able to pressure the quarterback very well this year either. So those things bode well for Justin Fields.
Yeah, but I'm going to look at the total in this one. I think that last week that Atlanta game was weird. It was pouring down rain the whole time. It was just a really, really nasty atmosphere. And the Bears looked good early on, man. Wind up, they go into the fourth quarter up 24-10. Wind up getting outscored 21-6 in the fourth quarter. That's a tough loss for them at home. They're in a division game. But I think these offenses kind of get it back on track. They'll be back down in Atlanta. You're back indoors, so you don't have to worry so much about the elements and stuff like that. And this is Atlanta Falcons team that gave up 34 points to the P.J. Walker-led Carolina Panthers just a few weeks ago. So I'll take Justin Fields over P.J. Walker anytime. And I'm going to look the over, man. I think 49.5 is too low right here. I think they get kind of shooting out back and forth. Vegas expects it to be a close game, so I can see them battling back and forth for most of the game. But I'm going to go over 49.5 in this one.
Yeah, Justin Fields, exciting, but it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable football to score that way. And hell, the fact that the Falcons don't have the best rush defense or the best pass rushing game might bode better for them because they might actually contain Fields and force him into passing situations, which he is miserable in those situations. We saw it at the end of the Detroit game. So we'll see. I think as exciting as people have been for Justin Fields, if they go to 3-8 now, eventually people in Chicago, fans like myself who are desperate for a good quarterback, even they are going to start to wake up for this a little bit. At least that's how I see it. Cleveland Browns coming off a real rough loss against those Miami Dolphins, headed to the Buffalo Bills, also coming off a tragic loss to those Minnesota Vikings.
Bills favored at 8 by 8 at home. Low total 41.5, but that might have something to do with the weather. At least during the day, it's going to be cold and windy and snowy. People can look at the Akron Buffalo College game total for that. But
just for a second, they're expecting potentially 3 to 6 feet of snow at some time over this weekend. So That's insane.
Yeah, they may end up moving the game.
Yep. So obviously keep a watch on the weather, and the weather's influencing that total in all likelihood. They're basically predicting something like a 25-17 kind of score, somewhere in that neighborhood. They're not basically expecting Cleveland to do much with Jacoby Brissett still at the helm. The public leans a little bit towards the Browns on the points, and then leans towards the Bills on the money line. They don't see the Bills losing back-to-back games at home. But the public's hammering the under, probably heavily weather influenced. Over 80% of the tickets coming in on the under. I think the Bills do bounce back well at home, and I think Allen didn't show many signs of an injury that I saw last week. So I think the Bills are going to get back to being their regular stuff. That's a pretty high spread still for the NFL. And this year, big spreads have not been covering for favorites. So that would be the reason for reservation or hesitation. But it wouldn't surprise me to see the Bills put a real number on them.
Yeah, I agree. But Josh Allen's still thrown 10 interceptions. He leads the league in interceptions, thrown 10 interceptions. Here's 13 total turnovers on the year for Josh Allen. And a lot of it's just been poor decision making. He's throwing bad passes. Nick Chubb continues to be a beast. So, the only time fantasy owners are sitting him is on his bye week. So you can't count them out in that cold weather with Nick Chubb there. So, yeah, I think it was being fun. 8 seems a little high to me.
Yeah. This total, man, it's crazy. Opened at 47.5. I guess the weather report came in. It's all the way down to 41.5, like you said, Bob. And it's just that's kind of crazy to me. I like the Browns in this situation, though. I like their offense, their style of offense more in the cold weather. bad weather type situation, because you can just feed Nick Chubb, try to shorten up the game. You don't have to put too much pressure on Jacoby Brissett. Allen's going to have to make a lot of plays. He's going to be trying to come back and make a lot of plays after that blunder last week. But I think 8's too many right here. I think anything over a touchdown, I think you're okay with taking the Browns here, because I look for them to feed Nick Chubb 25 times and try to get him rolling and try to take a lot of pressure off Jacoby Brissett. And I can just see that the Browns have a weird way to bounce back after they just get thumped. They did it against the Bengals a few weeks ago, and I expect them to do it again this week. I don't think they're going to win the game. I think the Bills don't lose. I don't think they lose 2 in a row at home. I think they win it, but I think they have a hard time covering 8 points. So I'm going to take the Browns right here, +8.
If you like the Browns and you like teasers, you can get them at +14, basically.
Right.
Oh, well, there you go. It's going to be really interesting if it does have that massive lake effect snow that they're predicting. Who knows what it could end up looking like?
I like the Browns running game more than I like the Bills running game. I'll just say that.
I think that most people would. I think most
right.
people would. Now another running team that couldn't quite pull it out against Taylor Heineke and those Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles. The no longer undefeated, the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles going to play the new look, kind of the old look with Matt Ryan, Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, smarter Jeff Saturday to put in a quarterback that can at least occasionally throw the ball to upset the Raiders in Vegas. It's the only time the house loses is when the Las Vegas Raiders are playing in Vegas. But Eagles, what's interesting is the reaction. At Sports Picks, we had Washington. We had Washington score more than 17, so that was an easy cover, easy win last Monday night. But the public still hammering, doesn't believe in the Colts and still believes in the Eagles. Eagles are 7-point favorites on the road in Indy. So it's interesting. And the about evenly split in terms of the tickets, with the money line heavily favoring the Eagles. They think the Eagles are going to bounce back after their first loss on the season. Total of 44. The public is hitting the under, so they're not believing that the Indy offense is back. If I had to lean in this game, I would just lean the Colts, because that's a lot of points. And maybe the Jeff Saturday revitalization and letting Ryan back at the helm, maybe they got something, and Jonathan Taylor back. Maybe they got something going there in Indy that's sustainable against being a touchdown underdog at home against an Eagles team that lost last week.
Jeff Saturday becomes the first coach in the NFL to tweet how bad a team is from his couch, and then 2 weeks later beat that team as head coach in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor, I think, can expose some holes in that defense that have showed up lately in the Philadelphia. They have some injuries. So if they can get that going, I think they're definitely going to keep it close. Big home dogs have been money all season. So I look for that trend to continue. I like Indianapolis +7.
Yeah, I like the Colts here too, man. I do. Like I said, I think I'm showing on coverage. It's sitting at 6.5. So if you get it at 6.5, I'd buy it up to 7. Touchdown save you. But the Colts have played really well at home this year. All year long, they got a win over the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Maybe they're playing inspired with Jeff Saturday in there. They seem to want to play for this guy, and he seems excited about what he's doing. Like I said, go get a big win on the road last week. I know it's a pretty terrible team they were playing, but maybe the Eagles were. The Commanders were 12 of 21 on third down last week against the Eagles at pretty much against what had been a pretty dominant defense so far in those situations. So if you got Matt Ryan going out there who can actually throw the football, man, maybe if they can figure out a way to convert third down at the clip that Commanders did, they're really going to give the Eagles some trouble. So I think 7 is just far too many right here. So I'm going to take the Colts and the points in this spot.
If the Eagles lose, what do you think? There'll be a prop bet on whether Jalen Hurts cries like Derek Carr did?
Oh man, I don't know if he's going to cry like that. That was pretty rough from old Derek Carr, who born in California, lived in Texas for a couple years, but got a thick Southern draw now.
Yeah, bad look for sure.
I will say, when it does come to the Colts, more than even Matt Ryan coming back, a healthy Jonathan Taylor makes it a different team, no matter who's playing quarterback. And man, they certainly got him rolling last week, and I think that needs to be the priority for them moving forward.
And we can't forget it's the fourth or fifth ranked defense all year long in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that defense has been strong all year, man. They do. They keep getting their team in position to win, and what has been a pretty poor offensive showing from those guys. So that defense keeps them in the game, man.
That's right. Now for an AFC East matchup, the Jets head to New England Foxborough to play the Patriots. The Jets have the better record. How many times has that happened in the past 2 decades?
And that's reflected in the spread. Pats are only 3-point favorites at home. Total low total of 38. So they're predicting something like a 20-17 kind of score. The public is evenly split on the game, but leaning heavily towards the under. So that might be partially whatever's happening weather-wise may be a factor there. It also may be because New England's games of late have trended under because their defense has played well and their offense has not. I would lean towards Belichick only getting a field goal against the Jets. I'm not yet sold on this Jets team, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not completely sold on them just yet. But if I'll tell you, if Belichick comes out and has a bad first half, I'm betting him on the second half.
Yeah. One of the great halftime systems is to bet Belichick both halves. Bet him on the first half. If he doesn't cover, bet him on the second half because he always covers one of the two at like a 60% clip. So over time, you make money on that system.
Yeah, man, I was just checking the weather on this game, and it's actually pretty nice weather for Foxborough this time of year. I think it's going to be above freezing at kickoff, so about 36 degrees. Doesn't really get below freezing until around the fourth quarter. So I like the Jets here, man. I've been on these Jets all off season, all season long. So I'm going to take anything over a field goal right here. Like I said, if it winds up sneaking down to 2.5, buy the hook up to 3, but you're sitting getting 3.5 right now. So I'm not. This is another one. I'm not mad at sprinkling a little bit on the money line, man. I think these Jets are really going to continue to get better. They got a lot of young guys that are continuing to progress each week, and I just love Robert Saleh, man. I love what he's been doing with this team and how he gets the most out of these players. So I'm going to take the Jets plus 3.5 right here.
I love how Robert Saleh keeps the receipts, right? He is using every single negative thing that anyone's ever said about them or the team as motivation, and it's pretty clear that like the players love this dude. Absolutely. And it looks like he goes hard on him too as well. It's not like they love him because he's soft on him. It looks like he's probably pretty demanding, but is also like really invested into everybody on this team.
He's a player's coach for sure.
Yeah. Next game, we've got the Los Angeles Rams, who do look to have Matthew Stafford back after sitting out a game due to concussion protocol. He was a full participant in practice today. Heading to New Orleans to play, I guess, Andy Dalton still and the New Orleans Saints.
You know, the Saints are favored by 3.5. You wouldn't have expected that given that if you would have known the rosters at this point preseason. Total of 39, so they're predicting a relatively low score. The public's evenly split on the game, except they love the under, which is interesting in New Orleans. And I get it. The Rams have been an under team a large part of this season, but basically predicting something like 21-18. You know, I think with Stafford, can Stafford and the Rams get off the schneid? I mean, they've been a bottom 5 offense through most statistical metrics through most of this season. I would probably lean actually towards the Rams in the over because I think they do bounce back. They need a bounce back. But if they're not going to get it here, it may be season DOA.
Yeah, correct. And I kind of look for the same thing. Plus, the Saints really let me down this last week. The Steelers, you couldn't beat the Steelers. Even so, you couldn't even keep within 10 of the Steelers. I had teased them up to 9.5 and had them on a 17 parlay, and that was my only loss. So they robbed me. So I'm really hoping the Rams beat them just for that.
Man, I just don't see how this offense gets any better. You said you've been bottom 5 all year long. Now you got lose Cooper Kupp. He's going to be out he's on IR now for, going to miss at least 4 games. Got to have minor ankle surgery and stuff like that. And just
he might not be back. Like he might be gone for the season. By the time he gets ready to come back, the Rams might be out of it.
Yeah, and if you're out of it, there's no reason playing that guy. I mean, he's one of your franchise players. So, I mean, if you're not going to be around him, the Saints had a weird way of, they went and got drubbed in Arizona and then turn around and come back and, they've looked better at home than they have on the road. This is a weird game for me. I'm probably going to avoid this one altogether, but I don't think I can give up 3.5 in this game. Maybe lean under. I don't know who else would be out there doing any offensive stuff, but I don't have a strong lean in this one. If I'm going to lean, I'm going to lean under 38.5. But this could be a weird game.
Yeah, you got to feel for a guy like Cooper Kupp, just a fucking hard worker, and who's going to step up, I guess, in his absence for the Rams is probably the reason this over-under is so low.
Why won't the Saints let Jameis Winston get out there for a little bit? I mean, what's going on there? Is he still – I mean, he's healthy, right? I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it. I mean, I don't know why
Andy Dalton throws enough picks.
Until the last 2 weeks, the Saints were averaging 30 points with Andy Dalton under center. He's not done that last 2 weeks, obviously. But I mean, I think that's why they were sticking with him in the first place, was all the offense that seemed to generate with him out there.
Well, I mean, we can look and see that some of those defenses he was doing that against were pretty terrible defenses for the most part.
That's absolutely true.
I mean, right. I mean, they make more money than we do. I was just curious why they.
A lot of times people are going to stick with what's hot.
Is it hot though?
Well,
It's not anymore, for sure.
It's doubts about Winston. I mean, that's the real answer.
He will turn the ball over. First guy, only guy ever to throw 30 touchdowns.
30-30, man. 30-30 season. It will probably never be done again. Next game, we got the Detroit Lions heading to New York to play those 7-2 Giants. It feels like the Giants never play anybody good. Like I don't know how we've made it 9. We've made it like 9 games, and somehow it doesn't seem like they've played like a team that was above 500.
Feels like they play a bottom 5 opponent every week.
Yeah.
The Giants are 3-point favorites. Probably that line drop because of the Lions' comeback against the Bears and finally getting off the offensive schneid in the fourth quarter. The total 45, so they're predicting Giants 24, Lions 21. Public is pretty evenly split on the game across the board with a slight lean towards the Giants. I wouldn't have a strong lean on this game other than I'm not sure the Lions offense that we saw in the fourth quarter will necessarily be the offense that will be the rest of the year, just because they got exposed by Belichick, struggled for a long time, bounced back in one good quarter. Does that really mean they're going to be a good offense? I'm not yet sold on that. So I would probably lean under.
The Giants have yet to give up 30 points this year, so that bodes well for that under. My question is, can Saquon continue to carry the load? I mean, he's getting almost 30 touches a game, and is he going to be able to stay healthy through all that? I mean, he's obviously back and he's running ridiculously well, but how long can that keep up? Are they going to overuse him? We'll see.
I don't know, man. I think it comes a time where when those guys, once he's back in rhythm and stuff now where he looks like, you got to kind of feed those guys. They feed off of that. They get better as the game goes on. Saquon looks like what could be, if not comeback player of the year, he's going to be up there for offensive player of the year. So I think at the very least, he's comeback player of the year with what he's done. I just love these Giants, man. I love Brian Daboll. He's another guy like Robert Saleh that seems to get the most out of his players. And like you said, it seems like they're playing a bottom 5 team every week. So I'm going to take the Giants here. I'm going to buy the hook down, get it under a field goal. Sitting at -3 right now, buy it down to 2.5. So field goal gets it for you. But I just like this Giants team. I'm going to keep riding with them till I can't, man. So yeah, I'm going to take Giants -3, buy it down to 2.5. But yeah, I'm going with the Giants right here.
I think as a fantasy owner, you'd love to see Saquon get 35 carries in a game. As somebody who's maybe worried about his long-time productivity, it's like, all right, let's bring it down to 25. All right, 25 carries. That's a safer spot for a back like that before you just completely run him out. But yeah, it's awesome to see for fantasy owners and for the Giants team right now, really.
He may also slide down inside the 3-yard line and screw you out a whole bunch of fantasy points right at the end of the game there, just because the guy knows how to play the game.
You never know. My boy MJD. And now next game we got PJ Walker, I guess, and those Carolina Panthers playing the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, but despite Carolina's upset win last week, a lot of hype for the Ravens. They used to blow out people at home, so that's part of the reason under John Harbaugh. But the Ravens favored by anywhere from 12 to 13, currently at 13 in a lot of spots. The public's heavy on the Ravens on the money line, leans the Ravens on the points. Total at 42. Public loves the under. They just don't think Carolina can score, even if it's with Baker Mayfield, given his erratic performance when he was at Cleveland against Baltimore. So you're looking at something like they're expecting a 27 to 15 kind of score, 27 to 14, somewhere in that neighborhood. So they're really expecting Carolina not to do much and Baltimore's offense to keep clicking. I think it's a lot of points. And again, at least this year, double-digit spreads have not been friendly to favorites, home or road. So I would probably lean a little bit towards the Panthers, as much as I don't want to bet the Panthers in general. But that's how I'd lean, just because it's a lot of points in modern NFL.
Yeah, I agree totally. 13 is just really, really high, even though there's significant differences in these teams. I mean, offensive-wise, they're not too far off in terms of yards and net passing yards per game, things of that nature. They're not too far apart. but defensively, the Ravens have played much better throughout the year. But 13 just seems really, really high. It's just really hard for me to take any team at that high, so I'd probably stay away.
I'm going to go with the Ravens right here. I think that defense got so much better when they added Roquan Smith to that defense. Allows that defense to do so many more things. He's a guy that can cover in space. He's a guy that's obviously a big-time tackler, leading tackler in the NFL. I love Roquan Smith right here, and I love what he does for this defense. And playing at home, Baltimore, I just don't see enough out of this Carolina. Like I said, the Falcons' defense is pretty bad. I know they're playing in a monsoon and stuff like that, but I just don't have a lot of faith in P.J. Walker. I really don't. I like the Ravens to win this by 2 tutties or more. It could be one where they just blow the doors off right here because Carolina, just like they did against the Bengals a few weeks ago, they looked really bad on the road in that spot. And I look for Baltimore to get a big win here and really blow the doors off. And I don't think it's going to be close. Even, I think it's kind of decided at halftime in this spot. So I'm going to take the Ravens minus the 13 right here.
Sad as a Bears fan to see Roquan go. He obviously wanted out. He said he wanted out. Bears management's been so bad the past couple of years and he got out. But that's a dude for a team that has just such a storied history of great inside linebackers. Roquan Smith was loved there as the anchor point of that defense, and he's going to be greatly missed in Chicago. The last 1 p.m. game that we have is the confirmed Taylor Heineke-led Washington Commanders. Sorry, Carson. This is kind of the story of his career. Once again, he had some injuries, and he's not going to be the guy, at least for right now. But they are playing the Houston Texans, the miserable Houston Texans.
Yeah, the Commanders are favored on the road. I mean, probably thanks in part to that big win against the Eagles. They're favored by 3.5, total of 40.5. So, predicting something like a 21-22 to 18 or 19 kind of game. No confidence in the Texans offense, some confidence in the Texans defense under Lovie Smith. The public is all over Washington. About 90% of the money line tickets are on Washington. Almost 2/3 of the spread tickets are on Washington. And they actually, we'll take another look. Yeah, they like the under despite a lot of, it's a low total 40.5, but it is 2 teams that struggle to score occasionally. This will be my free bet of the week. I like the Houston Texans getting 3.5 at home. I think they bounce back, and I'm not yet sold that the Heineke-led Commanders are anything but a pedestrian team.
Yeah, I think it was injuries to that. It was partly luck and partly injuries to that defense there in Philadelphia that led to that loss. Not a great Commanders play by any means, and I don't think that that's going to continue much. I think I like Texans at home here, especially if it goes up to 3.5.
Yeah, this looks like a perfect spot for the Commanders to just lay an egg after knocking off the last undefeated team in the league. But I'm going to look at the total here. I'm going to go under 40.5. Both these offenses, they play way better on the defensive side of the ball. Davis Mills against Taylor Heineke. I don't see a lot of points in this one. Got a decent running game with Dameon Pierce with the Texans, stuff like that. That's why I would lean more toward the Texans if I was going to pick a side. But I'm going to look at the total in this one. I'm going to go under 40.5 because I just don't see these two offenses being able to put up enough points to get over this total.
Yeah, I like Taylor Heineke, even though I know he's a very pedestrian guy. I just like his attitude. I like the fact that he fucking celebrated more. He's something like he was winning the Super Bowl when he got a rough in the pass or basically illegal contact when he took the knee and got hit. Man, I just love the guy. And to see him sitting there, he is a man of the people, sitting there shirtless in coach with a trash can full of ice and Busch Light. That is a man of the people right there.
That is a man of the people.
I love Taylor Heineke, yeah. Now, in the afternoon, speaking of a man who's maybe not of the people, crying Derek Carr and the Raiders are headed to face, maybe this is what they need to get off the schneid here. They're going to face the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, the Denver's favored at home by 2.5. The total is 41.5, so they're predicting Denver scoring something they have almost never done all year, which is 22 points. And the Raiders putting up 20, which would actually be impressive against this Broncos defense. Public leans towards Denver on the spread, but they love the Raiders to win straight up on the money line. So Raiders bettors are betting the money line. Broncos bettors are hitting the points because they're getting it under a field goal. 90% of the tickets are on the under. Nobody thinks this Denver team is either going to give up much or score much, even at home with a healthier Russell Wilson. I would say I actually lean over just because I can't imagine these unders keep cashing with Denver, but I don't know. But it's cost me money so far, so we'll see.
Would Jerry Jeudy beat up fantasy owners want to look to Cortland Sutton to kind of pick up the slack there? I kind of agree. They've at some point this is offense. I mean, I feel like this offense has enough pieces that they should have come alive at some point. It's been like frustrating watching them and the Packers and these teams who can't get it together with pieces that you feel like they should be able to get it together with. So yeah, I'm going to dive at it one more time and hope. Yeah, I like the over here, and I think they're going to score some points here and ideally come back to where we think they should be.
I don't know how the Broncos continue to do it, man. They play in the worst game of the week every single week. It's pretty terrible. Maybe it's because the offense is so bad and the defense is so good. I don't know, man. But I think they get the win this week at home. I'm going to take them anything under a field goal. So -2.5 sitting there right now. I'm going to take the Broncos in this spot. Look for maybe Russell Wilson start earning a little bit of that money or something. But they got a whole bunch of problems out there. And this is probably, if I had any recognition for this game, it'd probably not to watch it, because it's probably going to be pretty awful, I would say. But I'm going to take the Broncos anything under a field goal right here. And that is not a strong lean. That's just a lean.
Do we have a this is very random, but it's associated with the coach for the Raiders. Do we have, like, who has the best odds of getting fired in the NFL next? I'd have to imagine Josh McDaniels may be up there, right?
Got to be close.
In one season, I mean, that would be rough, you know. But yes, I mean, there's no question. I mean, blew what, 3 17-point leads this season. Not winning at home against a beat up Colts team or with a whole new coach. I mean, it's he would probably have to be in that list of top 5 prospects or top 3 prospects. It's just whether or not Raiders management would be inclined to pull the trigger quickly. Probably not. Probably they're going to give him at least another year to fix things. But they didn't spend all that money on Devontae Adams for this kind of product to be on the field.
Yeah. These kind of things, I look at guys who had, like, there's always the guys in the beginning of the season, the team's going to be crap, they might get rid of them. But for teams like this, who were expected to compete for a playoff spot, like that's where the Raiders were. We were looking at that NFC or that AFC West, and we're like, man, all 4 of these teams could compete for a playoff spot. And they've been so disappointed. I put Cliff Kingsbury up there as well as one of those guys who have had a very, very disappointing season for where we thought they'd be.
I think he goes before McDaniel goes.
I think Josh McDaniels at least gets into next season. If he's 1-3 after 4 weeks next year, he's going to get canned. But I think they at least maybe give him one more shot at it and see. I mean, at what point do you got to kind of look at it like how these guys got to build their system and get all their stuff implemented. So you got to kind of give him a little bit more than one season. But like I said, if he starts out 1-3 or something like that next year, he's going to get canned in the first month. So
I bet that's what Belichick is betting on, because he needs a new offensive coordinator.
I think that's why he hasn't hired one yet. He knew Josh would be back pretty soon based on his head coaching record. So
if he gets back there, he probably shouldn't leave that spot, man. It works out pretty well for him up there.
Yeah.
Next afternoon game, we got the Dallas Cowboys coming off that rough loss. A lot of bad picks from Dak in that game. They're headed up to Minnesota. Been pretty tough to win up there this year.
Yeah, back-to-back games up north. The Dallas is favored. I was a little surprised by this spread. Dallas is favored by 1.5, total of 47.5. So they're predicting something like 25, 23, somewhere in that range for Dallas.
Wow.
The public's evenly split, other than betting the over heavily, likely due to some Minnesota higher scoring games and Dallas higher scoring games of late. I just find that I have to lean Vikings at home. I mean, yes, I get that they have had some good breaks at winning these comeback games repeatedly, and got that in Buffalo as well. With, as I mentioned, the bad beat of getting the luck of a fumble that gave that chance of a win in the first place. But Dallas, it's like, I've heard all this hype for the Cowboys, and it's like, I was at that first game. I remember when everybody was telling me they're done, they're finished, they're over. And now all of a sudden they're the best team in the league. They're going to go in and beat the 8-1 Minnesota Vikings at Minnesota. I get it's not a 1 o'clock kickoff, so you always have the Kirk Cousins not at a 1 o'clock kickoff factor, but it's not a night game. That's where he has the real problems. So I lean Vikings here, catching points at home.
Yeah, I do too. I think the spread in Vegas comes from a little bit. They haven't beat Minnesota has not beat the Cowboys in Minnesota since 2010 against Tony Romo. So maybe that history is playing part of a role, but it's a 425 game. It's not a primetime game, so I look for Kirk Cousins to win this one here. So I like the points in Minnesota.
Yeah, man, I spent some time back and forth when here in Minneapolis, where my kids live in Minneapolis and stuff. So last year I was around there and I had to hear a lot of bad radio talk. Well, they really bashed that coaching staff last year. I'm just curious. I haven't been up there much this year. I'm just curious what they're saying this year. They got to be on the other side of the fence now, man. Feeling real good about what they got going. But I don't understand this spread at all. It looks real scary to me. I'm probably going to stay away altogether because I have no idea why the Cowboys would be favored in this game. Maybe they're expecting a letdown from the Vikings after the big win in Buffalo, something like that. If I got to lean in this one, I'm going to lean over 47.5. But as far as picking a side, man, it just looks too fishy to me. I don't know. Something's going on there. So it wouldn't blow my mind for the Cowboys to come in and just wallop them. But I'm going to take over 47.5 right here. And I'm probably just going to sit back and watch this one, though.
It's shocking to me that that at least it's not an even game. Like, with everything the Vikings have done, they're still not getting respect with this spread.
Yeah, that's weird.
I absolutely think Dallas can come in there and roll them. You know, I think it's reality. Like, it can happen, but man, that's just weird spread. So we'll see how that shakes out. Now we got the Bengals heading to the Steelers.
Yeah, the old AFC North rivalry. Steelers 4-point dogs at home, total of 41. So they're predicting that the Steelers will have a decent, okay offensive outcome, and they'll completely contain the Jamar Chaseless Bengals offense to something like, 20, 18, 19, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood kind of points, not even breaking 20 for the Bengals. The public's on the Steelers. It's a slight lean. Money line is leans Bengals. Public leans a little bit towards the over, but not heavy. I think it's how much confidence do you have in this Bengals offense, which has been sporadic, and especially without Jamar Chase. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, especially on the road. Old historical rivalry, obviously, here. The Steelers have tended to play well. Steelers did look better last week offensively. I would probably slight lean towards the Steelers at home catching 4 points, because you're not like they lose by 5, so it's almost like you have to lose by 6 or more to lose it. And I don't know if the Bengals have the offensive explosiveness without Chase to put up a big number on the Steelers on the road.
I agree that they don't. And the interceptions are too much. Joe Burrow vowed to stop throwing the picks, but I don't believe him. But yeah, four's too many. I like the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm going to go under in this one. Under 6-2-1 the last 9 meetings of this series, and 3-0-1 the last 4 meetings in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's last, 7-1 their last 8 home games, the under's covered. So I just don't see these teams get a lot of points. It's not going to be really, really bad weather. It's going to be cold. It'll be really cold. But like I said, without Jamar Chase in this Bengals offense, I just don't have a lot of faith in it. They don't seem to be able to. They tried to get Joe Mixon involved a couple weeks ago. He finally had a big time game, but I just don't feel like they utilize him enough. He's one of the better running backs in the league. I really feel like he's a top 10 running back in the league. He doesn't get utilized enough. So I just don't see a lot of points in this one. I really don't. So I'm going to go under the 40.5 right here.
I'm hoping for the Bengals' sake that they figured that out, because they had a bye last week, I think, but played Carolina, and that Joe Mixon had that monster game. I think he scored like 5 overall touchdowns. 5 TDs,
yeah, 5 touchdowns.
But that's a guy they got to get 20 to 25 a game, especially with Jamar Chase out. And I think if they lean on that and then give Joe Burrow some, like, where you're not just expecting Joe Burrow to sit back there and throw 50 times a game, I think that's exactly what this team needs right now.
Because you have very capable playmakers, even with Jamar Chase out. I mean, you got Tyler Boyd, you got T. Higgins, you got Hayden Hurst at the tight end position. I mean, you got plenty of guys, even Samaje Perine leaking out in some of those dump passes and stuff like that. So, I mean, but I feel like you don't have to necessarily hand him the ball 25 times, but you got to get this guy 6-7 catches and, around 20 carries to really give your chance. I think to give that offense the best chance to compete.
Yeah. Now the Sunday night game, pretty good AFC West matchup. The Chiefs heading to LA, not much home field advantage there, but they will be playing the Chargers.
And the line kind of reflects it. The Chargers look good for a half against the 49ers and then fell apart in the second half. Chiefs favored by anywhere between 5 and 6, depending on where you get it. 5.5 is where it sits in many books currently. Total at 50. And despite that, the public's still hammering the over. Public's pretty split on both the money line and on the spread. So they're basically predicting that the Chiefs are going to go in and put up their normal kind of number, 28 or so points. And the Chargers will do decent, 22, may have some receivers back this week. I would say with the X factor that the Chargers truly don't have a home field. I mean, this game has been high scoring and explosive at times and a lot of fun and close. I would lean towards the Chargers in the game.
Yeah, me too, especially if this line moves up at all where you can catch it at 6. Again, big home dogs have been money, so I never want to steer away from them when the line gets too high with a decent team at home. So, yeah, I'd look – if you can get this one at 6 or the line moves up at all, I like the Chargers here.
Yeah, the big time factor for me in this game is if Keenan Allen plays or not. Been dealing with some injury stuff and everything. Mike Williams is going to be out till late November with the stuff he's been dealing with. Josh Palmer steps up pretty good in those spots when he's able to, but you need another weapon to be able to throw to. You got Gerald Everett tied in, you got Eckler at the running back position stuff. So they have a very capable offense, but I think Keenan Allen really opens some things up for this offense, allows it to be able to take some pressure off Justin Herbert. So if Keenan Allen plays, I believe toward the Chargers. If Keenan Allen does not play, I like the Chiefs in this spot.
Yeah, when you take away both of those guys, when you take away Keenan Allen, 100 reception per game or per year guy, when you take away Mike Williams, that huge playmaker who's going to get you 75, 80, 85 catches a game, and all of a sudden that's gone from your offense, that is a huge deal. And we've seen that play out over the last couple of weeks. Neither of those guys played the last 2 games. I don't think Keenan Allen's played more than a half since the first game of the season. So
yeah.
Both of those guys are considered day-to-day right now. But Mike Williams probably a doubtful, and Keenan Allen, they need this dude to get back in there for sure.
It makes that a different team when he's on the field.
Yeah. And then the Monday night game, we got the 49ers coming off. Jimmy G's record in games where he doesn't throw a touchdown is probably the best of any quarterback to ever play in history. But he had another performance where he did exactly what he needed to do coming off that win. But they're headed to the Arizona Cardinals, who are still unsure of whether Kyler Murray is going to go.
Yeah, and the spread reflects it. 49ers favored by 8 on the road in Phoenix. Total of 43.5. So basically they're predicting that Arizona is going to struggle to score and that San Fran's going to continue to put up 26-plus points a game, which I think is still a little bit on the high side for a Jimmy G 49ers. The public is on the 49ers, and they're on the over. So they think the scores will be higher, maybe part reflecting some issues with the Arizona defense. I think that's way too many points at home with Arizona, regardless of whether it's Colt McCoy or Kyler Murray. So I would lean towards the Cardinals at home catching 8.
The last 2 years, Colt McCoy's been able to step in and win a couple games for Arizona and play really well, in my opinion, for that Arizona team. So, yeah, absolutely. 8 is way too high. Again, big home dogs, big home dogs, big home dogs. I'm going to hit them when Vegas gives them to me. I'm going to take them. And I don't really care if Colt McCoy or Kyler Murray's playing in that instance.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on this one. I think 8.5 is far too many right here. Monday night game. You're the only one on TV. You have a reason to be hyped. You have a reason to get your team ready to go. Like I said, Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy are both perfectly capable of keeping this game within 10 points or so. So I think 8.5 is just far too many right here. I like the Cardinals in this spot. This could be a weird spot where the Cardinals find a way to win this game straight up too. So it might not be a bad spot to think about sprinkling a little bit on the money line. It'll probably be a pretty high number. But yeah, I like the Cardinals right here.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a big spread. I really like the way the San Francisco team looks now with now that you have the possibility of having George Kittle on the field, Deebo Samuel on the field, and Christian McCaffrey on the field.
How smart does that 49ers front office look now, man? Not getting
draft picks, screw draft picks.
Not dealing Jimmy G, picking up CMC, man. They're really putting together a Super Bowl contender right there.
Yeah.
They got bailed out from their mistake of trying to go with Trey Lance.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't believe we started off the season with Trey Lance as the quarterback, but hey, there you go. That's why first-round draft picks, sometimes they don't mean shit. And the San Francisco 49ers have proven that with the team they assembled there. That's it for the NFL. I want to hit a couple of these things real quick. Eric K with 10 gift subs, 10 gift memberships to all you guys out there. It was early on in the stream, so big shout-out to Eric K. Appreciate that. And then Zenny Biscuit for 5. Kentucky Derby winner Rich Strike will run in the Clark Stakes at Churchill Downs on November 25th. He loves the track at Churchill. There you go. That's a little bit of info for all you horse bettors out there. And then since we do have the Greg in the chat, I missed a super chat from him last stream we did. He said, USC is a theater arts school. UCLA runs California. Well, that's very appropriate. That's very appropriate for what we're about to talk about. We may as well start with that game in college football because, yes, a huge, huge game for the Pac-12. USC is playing UCLA.
Yeah, and now I wonder if Greg does he want UCLA to win because he loves UCLA, or would he rather them get humiliated so that Kelly gets fired?
I think if he were to tell you, I think he would tell you he wants them to win, and he also wants Chip Kelly to get fired. So, I think that's it.
The UCLA home underdogs there in the Rose Bowl for this crosstown rivalry. USC getting favored by about 2.5. There's a lot of smart money action, sharp money action on USC because the public, 2/3 of the public is betting UCLA. And they're betting the over, even though the over is there already at 76. And that's because both of these teams have great offenses. Both of these teams have pedestrian defenses that can give up big plays. Both their offenses are great at creating big plays. UCLA coming off that big home loss to Arizona. Sports pickers had the Arizona money line at about 8-1. So that was a nice little cash. We'll see if UCLA rebounds in this critical rivalry game. Now, the last two times that Chip Kelly faced Lincoln Riley back when it was Oklahoma, or Riley was at Oklahoma, Riley did a number on him both times. So we'll see if the same history repeats itself here. Basically, they're predicting 39-37 kind of score. And there have been some wild scoring games in this series in recent years during Chip Kelly's tenure, though this will be the first time Lincoln Riley's on the Trojan sideline. They lost their great running back, Travis Dye, the transfer from Oregon. But they still have a lot of talent on that offense. I would say that as some folks have pointed out, the Pac-12's interest. UCLA is done because of the loss last week in terms of the playoff. Oregon is done because of their big home loss. Sports pickers also had Washington at 4-1 to win straight up. So it was a nice late evening on the West Coast for those subscribers at Sports Picks in the Pac-12, but not good for the Pac-12. Basically, that leaves only USC that has a shot at the playoff. And given some interesting history with officials in the Pac-12, the question is, will some calls not go the home team's way in order to help USC have a shot to make the playoff? I would say I lean because of the Riley history, because of the talent differential, because of how the officials might end up playing a counter home role. I lean with the sharp money on this towards the Trojans.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect at all. I do think this is the one game this week that I'm most looking forward to watching. I think it's going to be a really exciting game to watch. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to come down to the last minute. I think it's going to be really close. I think the spread's really close to where it should be there. And, I look for a high scoring, fun game to watch this weekend.
Yeah, there's certain teams I'm pulling against being a volunteer fan. USC is one of them, but I'm gonna go with USC this week. Anything under a field goal, I think they handle their business in this game. Got the big rivalry game. They've fared much better than UCLA in this game of late. So I just really like USC right here, man. I really do. Anything under a field goal, I think you're okay with. I think they're gonna have trouble in the Pac-12 title game. They may have trouble with Notre Dame next week, but I think they get by this one. So anything under a field goal, I think you're okay taking the Trojans.
It's crazy to me that Lincoln Riley might head there in his first year and make the college football playoff. That would be nuts.
They just handpicked out of the transfer portal and just everybody that leaves their team in any category somewhere else.
You get to take your quarterback with you, basically. Yeah. It is such a different game right now in college football than it ever has been before. But heading back to the Big 12, where Lincoln Riley was all the way up till last year, TCU playing Baylor.
I was hoping TCU would lose last week, but they came up with a creative defensive scheme, and a game that everybody thought would go over got nowhere near the total thanks to TCU's very smart defensive scheme. So Baylor, on the other hand, had a humiliating loss at home in Waco to Kansas State. So you look at Baylor's 2.5-point dogs at home to TCU. Total of 58. So they're basically predicting something like a 30-28 win for TCU. a little bit under TCU's offensive totals this year. And they're not expecting a complete repeat of last week. You look at this, over 90% or so of the tickets are on TCU because Baylor's coming off a bad loss. TCU, big win in Austin. About 2/3 of the money's on the over because so many Big 12 and TCU games have gone over this year. My lean, though I have an obvious bias because I want TCU to lose so that Tennessee has an easier path to that final playoff spot. But also because I think Dave Aranda and Baylor even before Aranda, has been an exceptional team coming off a loss playing at home. That's something like 21-5. So I think Aranda bounces back. I think that actually I would be worried if I was a TCU fan at that poor offensive performance last week against Texas. You're going to expect Aranda to repeat some of that defensive scheme that Texas ran. And I think their offense won't be as on the schneid as it was last week in a look-ahead spot against Kansas State. So I'm both hoping and probably will have money on the Baylor Bears to pull the upset.
I'm having Max. This is just a miracle season for Max Duggan. I think he's just everything's going his way, and with his story after his injury, then not winning the starting job this year, and then coming out and competing the way he has, it's kind of been fun to watch. I don't see them losing here. I think TCU wins this game, and I think they score a lot. I think it might get close, somewhere in the 36-30 range, something like that.
Yeah, man, I'm so torn in this one. Max Duggan may be my favorite player that doesn't wear orange in the entire country, but I also really need these Horned Frogs to lose, man. I really need these guys to slip up somewhere. And this feels like a weird game, man. You got Baylor coming in off that getting drubbed last week by K-State at home, and it just feels like a weird spot. That line seems to be a little low to me. So I'm going to take Baylor right here, and I'm going to take Baylor on the money line. I think they get it done this week. I really do. I look for TCU to slip up somewhere, and this is the toughest spot they have left outside of the Big 12 title game. And it's just hard to keep piling it on week after week. That so many emotions and so many things going on. You're hearing people talk great about you in the media and stuff. These are still 18 to 22-year-old kids for the most part, man. So it's just it's going to be a tough atmosphere. But
back-to-back road games, 19 without a bye, first coach.
Noon games are weird, man. It's different. You don't have all day to think about it. You got to kind of wake up and be ready to go. And if you get caught slipping early on, first, second quarter, you might find yourself in a hole you can't get out of. So I like Baylor right here. I'm going to take Baylor on the money line.
I'm impartial because I really want to see a 4-conference college football playoff. As bad as that is for you guys,
I was going to say, we can't.
As bad as it is for you Tennessee fans, that's kind of what I want to see right now.
I don't see that happening really, though. Historically, with 2 SECs, that's going to be.
I think that would be a terrible playoff.
Well, if USC only has one loss and TCU goes undefeated, there'll be a 4-conference playoff.
If TCU goes undefeated, they should be in. If TCU goes undefeated, their body of work, they should be in.
They'll bump USC over Tennessee.
And USC will have I guess USC's only loss will be a 1-point loss at Utah. Yeah. Utah's probably the 12th ranked team in the country right now.
They got a big game this week against Oregon. So
yeah. I think Oregon will put the smackdown on them, but I think that it's USC. If it was UCLA or Oregon or Washington, I don't think they leap Tennessee. But USC, they'll leap Tennessee.
We just need your hated Fighting Irish to handle business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all we need.
He's been good at playing the big games. Man. He's been crappy at playing the crap teams.
Right.
Fuck Notre Dame, man. They're such garbage. They're a garbage team. They were overrated when they started. They got bounced, and then all of a sudden they have one good game. Big upset.
You gotta also feel kind of like
they're back in the top 20. Fuck off, man.
You gotta feel like kind of fuck USC too, though, man. I mean, it's kind of the same way there with those guys and everything.
I like Lincoln Riley though. That's interesting to me. It's Lincoln Riley's first year there.
Yeah, I wish Notre Dame and USC would play to a 0-0 tie, but
there you go.
That'd be best case scenario.
Well, even if it's close, USC is owed in this game because Notre Dame's got some bullshit calls over the years. All right, that's just the bottom line. So fuck Notre Dame. I'm rooting for USC all the way now. It was just kind of something I wanted, in the back of my head. Now I'm rooting for it actively because that does mean that USC would have to go. I don't know if they're playing at Notre Dame, but kick Notre Dame's ass. That's what I want to see.
I think this year's at Notre Dame, if I recall right.
That is a good tidbit. That's going to matter for sure.
Yeah. Now we got a game that looked a hell of a lot better before the season started than it does now. Georgia and Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky lost at home to Vanderbilt as 18-point favorites. Embarrassing. They're supposed to have a first-round quarterback, maybe a top 5 quarterback. Not looking like it this year. George, this is I think it's the SEC game of the week on CBS because it's 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Georgia favored by 22.5 on the road in Lexington. Total at 49. So they're predicting something like a 36-13 score. They don't think Kentucky can even score 2 touchdowns in the game. Public is hammering the dogs. About over 80% of the tickets coming in on Georgia after they covered last week against Mississippi State. And they love the under because both of these teams have been big under teams under these two respective coaching staffs. And Georgia tends to call off the dogs if they get a big lead in the game. About 90% of the tickets are in the under. 80% of the tickets are on Georgia, which means I'm going to lean Kentucky. I think this fits a particular betting pattern situation that I like, which is a double-digit home underdog on national TV. I think Kentucky rebounds from their poor performance last week. Might have been a bit of a look-ahead game against Vanderbilt. And I think that they get enough done, especially the quarterback. He needs to show something against Georgia if he's even going to be draftable at this point. Least of all, a first-round draft pick, Will Levis, the transfer from Penn State. Mark Stoops has a way of getting up for these kind of games and getting his team schemed well. Georgia has shown a capacity to play down to the competition. Did so early in the year against Kent State. Did so at Missouri, where they needed a fourth-quarter rally to finish them off. And Tennessee showed what Missouri's defense was really made of last week when they set a record of 700-something, whatever it was, plus yards in recent era. So I lean Kentucky catching all those points at home.
Yeah, he's going to have to do something. I mean, this Georgia team, I agree with everything you said, but this Georgia team does not allow points. So to see them not scoring 2 touchdowns would not surprise me in the least. I think Georgia's given up something like 15 touchdowns in the last 17 games, which is kind of ridiculous. I think the next closest team is like 36 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So despite the fact that last year's Georgia team was supposed to be so incredible, this one is not as far off as people think, in my opinion. They're just killing folks. So Georgia's going to have to score less in order for that to take place, in my opinion.
Sit on the ball like they tend to do.
Correct.
Yeah, I just really like Georgia in this spot. Man, I was really big on this Kentucky team early on, but after last week, what they did with Vandy, I mean, there's no reason Vandy should even been in that game. I just like Georgia right here. I think they're going to be business as usual. I don't think they're going to try to – they don't have no reason to run the score up or anything like that. But I think they're just going to try to keep rolling along, be the machine that they are, get prepped up, ready to end this, close the season out. They're going to have Georgia Tech last game of the year before they see title game, which is another just tune-up. So I see them winning this by 4 tutties or better. I really do. I don't see any way Kentucky puts up any more points than Tennessee did in that game. Obviously, the offenses are not even comparable in that spot, but I just like what Georgia's doing right now. They're just kind of business as usual, running the big red machine. I look for them to continue to do that on in the playoff. I think they do it to LSU in the SEC title game too. But, yeah, I like Georgia to win this by 4 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, it's weird what Kirby Smart does in these moments because he's not a guy that runs a score up. If they get comfortable, if they get a 3-score lead, they might just sit on it. So
you might get a defensive tutty from that defense or something like that. Will Levis hadn't been playing exceptionally well, and his defense hadn't really helped him out much either. So the Kentucky's just got some problems right now, man. There may be injuries and stuff like that. Chris Rodriguez is a monster, but they just seem to be having some problems, and I don't see them righting the ship this week.
Really disappointing season for those Kentucky Wildcats. Like based on they were ranked freaking 8th, 7th or something at some point this year.
They did, yeah. They got the top 10.
Yeah, so rough. Now we're headed back to the Big Ten for Illinois, who got taken down by the Purdue Boilermakers last week, but Illinois is headed to Michigan.
Yeah, Sports Pick subscribers were on the Boilermakers side, so that was a nice win, betting against Illinois back-to-back weeks. Michigan favored by 18 at home. Supposed to be a very cold weather game. total of 41.5, reflecting both teams' dominating defenses and Illinois' weak offense. The public is on Michigan, and they're on the under. They think it's going to go even lower scoring than that pretty low college football total of 41.5. They're basically predicting Michigan wins this game something like 31-13 or 32-12. I mean, it's that kind of margin scores. They think Michigan gets a big lead, runs it a lot, and then sits on the lead. I would lean. I just think that points is a little bit high with a very tough Illinois team and with Michigan having Ohio State on deck. I think, and you put it a cold weather game that encourages them to just run it a lot and play conservative. Typically speaking, with totals under 45 and double-digit spreads, those double-digit spreads tend not to cover because of the low total, telling you it's going to be a low-scoring game, harder to get that cushion in the point-wise. So I lean the Illini catching 18 on the road.
Yeah, and I like the under too. I don't think Michigan's going to score that much. That Illinois defense, that secondary has been just elite this year. They're first in interceptions, first in passer rating, second in yards per attempt, fifth in yards per game. They're killing it. So I like the under there and Illinois.
Yeah, I this looks like kind of a trap game for Michigan the week before Ohio State and all that stuff. But normally I would shy away from this one, but I just like Michigan in this spot. Illinois kind of had some rough couple weeks, man, losing back-to-back home games to Michigan State and Purdue. Just kind of the wheels seem to be kind of not necessarily falling off. They're still having a great season by all accounts, but I just don't really like the way they look offensively right now. And I think Michigan can do enough defensively. I think they're going to grind it out with that running game and Blake Corum. Stuff like that. They don't really make the quarterback have to make that many plays in that Michigan offense. And I just like what Michigan's doing right now. I really do. I think they're bumping the road's going to be Ohio State, and who can figure that one out on that weekend. And normally I would be worried about the look ahead, but I think Michigan just grinds them away right here. And I can see them winning this by 3 touchdowns. So I'm going to take Michigan minus the 17.5, 18, whatever you get it at. But I think anything under 3 touchdowns, I think you're okay.
I think it'd be through the run game. I mean, Michigan's wide receivers have struggled a little bit lately too. They've not looked very good.
Yeah. That's like I said, their offense is, a run first offense. That's when they really get to rolling and stuff like that. They've had some tendencies to get started slow in games this year, but they do grind it out. They got more talent than basically anybody other than Ohio State that they play. So I just see them grinding this out down the stretch. And I think anything under 21, I think you're okay taking Michigan right here.
This might be a situation where you got two teams kind of looking forward to the game. I don't think Michigan's in danger of losing. I don't think Ohio State's in danger of losing at Maryland. But when you look at the spread, Ohio State, they're favored by damn near 4 touchdowns at Maryland. So a couple interesting games for these two teams that are ready to face off to see who gets to play in the college football playoff, to be sure. We did get a super chat from our man, the Greg. This is what his grand plan is, Robert. UCLA will shock the world. UCLA 47, USC 40. Bruins
Sweet.
Nation celebrates. Chip Kelly resigns next day to take the Colts job. Make UCLA great again.
I hope you're right, man.
That would be quite the send off. Hey guys, we had a 10-2 season or something, 9-2 season. I'm out of here taking the Colts job.
It's not like he has a lot of depth at quarterback. He's gonna have to get somebody in the transfer portal to replace DTR.
Yeah. We'll see, Greg. Listen, I know I'm rooting for USC, but I hope you get what you want too. I really like Lincoln Riley and what USC is doing. No hard feelings, certainly. But that's it for us. Now it's just time to look and see what we were right on, what we were wrong on, and what we had no idea to even expect in this upcoming week. Robert, if people want more of this type of content, if they want to know exactly what we're looking at, some in-depth dives into sports betting, not just for football, where do they go?
Sportspicks.locals.com. We'll have a bunch of stuff up this weekend on the World Cup. There'll be a Sports Wars video that we're going to be producing for Sports Wars, predicting the entire World Cup for those people that are interested in it is the most watched sport around the world, just not in America. We have recommended picks all week on college football and the NFL. We put out free picks on a range of other sports. Other handicappers are there. They put out their picks. Cricket puts out his picks. Cricket and Cody put out fantasy props and individual prop plays. You can join for free if you want certain exclusive material That cost only $10 a month, the cheapest, most affordable sports handicapping service and the most profitable for the price anywhere you will find any place. Where other people charge you $100 a weekend or $10 a pick, you get $10 a month. And on average, we're giving out hundreds of picks every single month. So far, about over a 60% profit this year. Doubled our money for subscribers last year. Put out a lot of range of fun picks. If you like teasers, give you options for those. Long shot bets, give you options for those. So you get a little bit of all of it at sportspicks.locals.com.
Hell yeah.
I just want to add a little bit to that. I seen where somebody asked about some MMA stuff in the chat and stuff like that. We're going to start looking into some more of that. We got World Cup stuff coming up, like Uncle Bob said. So yeah, man, we'd like to do all kind of different stuff. Same game parlay things. Just a lot of different stuff. We actually focus on some daily fantasy stuff and put out a lot of videos for you guys there. So any range, anything you guys are interested in, just ask us, and we'll look into it and we'll get some stuff for you, man. But we're here for you guys, and we just want to be able to cover what you guys want to hear. So any suggestions you have, feel free to give those to us.
Yep. And college basketball picks and NBA picks, and there's a recap each day of what happened the night before, measured against the spread, and the preview of each NBA game and big NCAA games now that the game on the hardwood is starting up in earnest.
Yeah, it's way more than just football over there. You guys are crazy with the amount of stuff that you cover. So it's very awesome. Go support Sports Picks on Locals. And my one thing I want to know, the only thing I'm interested in the World Cup is how many hate crimes against the LGBTQ community are the Americans going to cause by deciding to wear a rainbow in support of gay people on their uniforms in Qatar?
Can you imagine? They go out of their way to say, in respect for the Islamic culture of the place that we are playing, we will not eat any pork, but we're going to have a symbol that changes the red, white, and blue to all the LGBTQ, ABCDF, whatever the other labels are now. I guess somebody didn't pay attention to how they feel in Islamic culture in those societies about those issues. So it shows you what the woke bubble looks like. It won't help the U.S. soccer team any. But, the U.S. may actually have they have one of the youngest teams in the World Cup. So they do have they're going to get to play England. They're going to play Wales. And we get to play Iran. So we get a little that's always has some interesting political undercurrents underneath it. So there'll be some fun, entertaining games of at least matchups between countries that folks may want to tune into.
Usually I'm all about rooting for the red, white, and blue in any situation. But if they change it to Roy G. Biv, you're kind of on your own. That's kind of how I feel about it. But we'll certainly see with the World Cup coming up soon. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Robert. Thank you to Cody. Thank you to Cricket. We'll see you back here same time next week. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Talk to you next time. Peace.